Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment, everyone. And I want to thank you and welcome you to the podcast. And I invite you guys to sit down and get comfortable and listen and learn. And as my listeners, I always invite you to learn how to transition to become a hearer. A hearer is that individual that will change their life. A listener will find another podcast. But become a hearer in your life and you will learn much. I want to thank and honor this individual that is coming before us because I deem that she's coming with a couple of things very, very expensive. Gila is coming with her time. 24 hours is offered to every one of us. And I want to thank her for coming and spending some of this quality stuff, man, because I've learned to value time and she has rewarded me with much. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It has created the individual. It deposited some things inside of her, and we want to have access to it. We want to have access to her wisdom, her knowledge, her insights. These things that have been reserved as one who has walked through the journey. These are the ingredients that are offered to them. And so we want to thank her for coming to Threads of Enlightenment to offer both of these precious commodities to us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. As you know, one of the very first questions that we ask the individual, because I think the reward that we get to experience while we're here is serving others. There's two parts of our journey, the independent part of the journey that we learn about the self. And then there's the interdependent part where we are collectively walking with each other and holding each other's hands, encouraging each other, supporting each other. The best way by which I can crystallize that is, how do you serve mankind?
Okay, well, that's a good question and a big one, but I will say very simple. For me to keep living a life with an open heart, keep sharing my journey and my story with the world, being honest and vulnerable and emotionally naked in front of everyone, simply to show that I am not different than anyone else, that we all, in the end of the day, are the same. I feel that we are so blessed and lucky that we look so much different from the outside because we are so the same. So we are experience life pretty much the same pain, the same excitement, the same joy. We don't have not necessarily have the tools all to experience and express our joys and but we are all the same. So by me sharing my story and my journey, I hope I create a place for someone else to feel that they are enough, to feel that they're not alone, and inspire them to reach into their own self and to find their journey to healing and peace.
I love it. I love it.
This is, and on a bigger scale, I mean, it's been 2 years since I started my journey as a nomadic journey, and it feels like life has been putting me on this path. And last year, in one point while I was traveling, there was a kind of like a light bulb was coming into my tiny head, and I came with a vision of one day, if the universe will bring it to me, this is something that I'm going to let the universe to see if the universe will provide and help me get to that point, to create a nonprofit organization that will help and for me to empower other women to embrace their self-empowerment and to help others to overcome their own trauma. Because if anything that I learned through my journey, that I am the only one responsible to heal myself for my own trauma. And by giving that to me, then I'm able to give to the world a peaceful heart. And by peaceful heart, everyone else can benefit from it. So kind of that's my vision for mankind.
That is awesome. Whenever you are putting that together, please let us know. We'll do the best we can to help as well along that line.
think my biggest challenge will be finding the land,
Hmm.
and someone somewhere hearing that
Yeah.
and have a land that they would like to and have the same vision that I have, that want to come together. This is why I'm putting it to the
Well, you
universe.
never know. The podcast is on all the continents, so you never know who may be listening and
Yes.
whatever call that they have on their in their spirit as well. You never know, Gila. You never know. So one of our customs that we do here at Threads of Enlightenment, as you bravely told me that you started listening before you got here, is we visit those spaces. I tell people they are basically that you and I get an opportunity to reside for a brief moment of time. But in some of these spaces, this is where we're created. Usually, trauma happens to us as we move through each one of these spaces, and that trauma will give birth to us at some point where we are able to then begin to unmask what took place. What was your family like? This is the first space that we visit. We have mom and dad in there, sometimes some siblings and so forth. But what was your family unit like?
Well, unfortunately, it was very lonely, very painful. It felt like, I definitely was never felt belonged to my family. There was kind of like my dad that was the one that created a lot of trauma in my life. I was emotionally and physically abused by him, but he created kind of like two kind of a tribe. I felt like it was him and my siblings and me and my mom. And unfortunately, my mom, at the age of I was 14 when she diagnosed with breast cancer, and then she passed away when I was 17. So the little that I had, kind of, that also was gone in a very early age. But interesting enough, I grew up in Israel and far from being in any religious family, but it's always felt like I born with a certain
Yeah,
wisdom. And it also felt like, even though I was not born into a religious family, God was very present in my
yeah,
life. It almost felt that was my parent. And I think that wisdom, what gave me that, it gave me the gift of understanding from an early age, and not to give me that role of a victim, but give me that understanding that I'm a
yeah,
survivor, to help me to see that, especially later on, to see that my challenge and my upbringing, how difficult it was, gave me a lot of tools and understanding, and actually taught me a lot of compassion and
yeah,
kindness toward later on in life. Because if anything, my dad taught me is what not to
yeah,
do, and now how not to behave. And sometimes those are the strongest lesson that you can really receive. So childhood was not, very, very hard. This is why sometimes I say, like, wow, I wish I could show you the person I used to be, the timid person I used to be, and what I am today. And not to brag and not to, but just to bring an example of what happened when one can understand that it's up to them to make the difference in their life and to heal themselves from a
yeah,
trauma. Because it actually took me it was the first year on my road, on the road, and I was in Sedona. There was a snowstorm and I had to be kind of forced to take a cabin. I traveled in a Mazda CX-5. That's all I
yeah,
traveled with the first year. And I understood that I am stuck. I needed to overcome and peel away the anger that was not part of me. I knew that's not who I am. Now, a few months ago, met a woman that followed me on one of the Facebook group that I share my story. And we met in Padre Island, Texas. And we very much right away, Ramona and I, open and shared a very vulnerable story with each other. And she talked about compassion and forgiveness. And I remember saying to myself, lady, I don't know what you're talking about. Did not even
yeah.
register. And when I was in that cabin, I knew that it's almost she put the
Oh
seed
yeah,
inside of me. I have to say, the people that I'm visiting through, like, encounter through my journey, each one of them brings something else into my healing. I'm so cherished, and I'm so grateful for
yeah,
Ramona, because she really brought me to that place where I truly, thank God there was a reception, there was self service. So I right away went into understanding what is
yeah,
forgiveness. And through that, I understood that both, my ex and my father never really wanted to hurt me. it was really the reflection on their own pain. They just didn't know how to express that. Unfortunately, I kind of was the one that resulted in that with their behavior. And the moment I understood that, the forgiveness brought a lot of
Yeah.
compassion and a lot of understanding that free me. I'm the one that really gained from all of that
Yeah.
process. So, and that helping me to extend more compassion to other people.
Yeah.
So, how much very painful, it's really provided me with a lot of who I am today and built such a strong resilience
Yeah.
in me that I can do what I can do today.
I love your story, Gila. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself. It has nothing to do with the others, because I remember having to come to that place of forgiveness because of some things that my parents had done to me, and I remember that day vividly when God told me to go and ask them to ask them for forgiveness, and I said no. They did it to
Mm.
me. I'm not going to ask them for no forgiveness. And let me say something on the onset about people and God. God is interested in relationship. Religion is man-made. Religion was created by man. God is not interested in religion. He's interested in relationship. You having a relationship with Him. So He will
Yes.
come to you to have a relationship with Him. Religion will program you and cause division amongst His creation, His man. So it is not God is not interested in religion. He's interested in a relationship. And He told me, Gila, to go and ask my parents for forgiveness. And it was several months. And I told him, no. And I was a young man. And I remember when I obeyed, if you will, I said, okay, he broke me down, if you will. Eventually, I'm like, man, because, that seed, that thought just kept coming and coming. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. And I went and I asked my parents for forgiveness, and all the anger and all of the stuff that kept me in bondage was released that day. Majority of it, my freedom, the degree of my freedom that I received was impeccable. I mean, I'll never forget it. I felt like a flying, and I became a new individual. And let me tell you guys that are listening another side to that story. I went to this lady's house one day, and I saw that she was crippled. Her hands were crippled, arthritis. Really, it was interesting to see the type of arthritis that she had. It was really, really weird. And I was in the medical field, so I'm familiar with some of that stuff. And I remember I said, if I pray for you, I felt if I pray for her, she would get healed. And I said, hey, if I pray for you, you'll get healed. Let me pray for you. And she said, and when I put my hand on her to pray, the thought came, says, ask her to forgive her husband. I was like, huh? So I said, you need to forgive your husband and you'll get healed. And she looked at me, she says, no, I'm not going to forgive him. And I said to her, well, why don't you, and I'm thinking that he's alive, he's in the back room somewhere. And I said to her, why don't you bring him out so we could talk? And she says, no, he's dead. And I said, he's dead. And I said, how long has he been dead? She said, probably over a little more than 10 years. And I'm looking at her going, and you're not going to, I'm stunned because you hadn't forgiven him. You wouldn't. And she said, no, I'm not going to forgive him because he cheated on me with my best friend. And I told her, I said, but you can get healed. She said, I don't care. I'm never going to forgive him. And so,
And I think
go ahead.
that was my misunderstanding of what is
Yeah.
forgiveness. And the moment all I did, because I was stuck in that cabin, listen to TED Talk, listen to podcasts, read as much as I can about it, just wanted to keep an open mind of what it is. And the moment I understood it, I mean, you're talking about the relief that it's almost all the weight,
Yep.
the heavy weight that I felt on my shoulder just
Melted.
melted. So if anyone listen, yes, I know exactly where you're coming from. And I know, they say like, okay, maybe I cannot forget what was done to me, but I can forgive because I can understand that it did not came from a place of hurt. it was a came from a place of their own pain. And wow, I mean, as you say, I mean, the relief is huge, absolutely huge. And I'm the one that benefit from it. I'm the one that now have more open
Mm-hmm.
heart to give myself, to share with others.
Yeah.
And please visit the idea of forgiveness.
I became more compassionate. One thing, Gila, that someone I interviewed someone a few weeks ago, I believe, and she said something to me about forgiveness that I'd never heard ever. And
Okay.
she said that people are told to forgive, and she said we do. We forgive the individual, the acts that they did. But she said none of
Mm-hmm.
us has ever asked for forgiveness or forgive the energy of who they were and who they are. And I was like, huh? And this is what she said to me. She said, when we do not forgive the energy of the individual, it still has lingering tentacles on us that is still there. And she said, I'll tell you what happened. She said, you'll have a memory of that individual and you'll feel a little tingling of something. And she said, the minute you learn to forgive the energy of them, because that's who they are, they just
Mm.
carried out the act through their body, but there's still energy. Forgive the energy, it will leave. And the memory of that stuff, she said, will never manifest again because you have completed the total forgiveness of them, their energy, and the actions of the individual. And I stood there and I said, I've never heard that, which I never did.
Okay,
And
that's
it was
interesting.
very interesting. I said the
Yeah,
same thing. I said, very interesting.
yeah, yeah. Because I do feel that I really release all of it in my now, even though, even though I still see the
Hmm.
result of, like, for example, of the trauma that my ex created, but I know that it's up to me. I'm not putting any more that um that responsibility on his
Yeah.
action. Now it's all on me to put myself. So I actually would like to, I will think more about what you say and her way of energy. But I feel like I truly got to a place of true forgiveness and
Yeah.
compassion
I told her
toward,
I'm going to meditate some more about it because I think it's an
yes,
interesting perspective, one that I've never heard
yes,
before. So I told her
yes,
I would
yes.
meditate on that as well. So here you are. Go
And
ahead, Gila. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I'm saying, like one thing that it's like almost like, oh my God, God, thank you for giving me that understanding of forgiveness, and for my dad, because he actually passed away last December. So that forgiveness happened before he passed
Hmm.
away. And his passing, was actually very confusing for me. I thought that I already buried the dad that I always wish for. And here it is, it happened. And like, whoa, I was actually stunned by the turmoil of emotion that went through
Yeah.
me. But I was very grateful that at least I already was in a place of forgiveness.
Yeah, that is
So,
awesome. That's awesome to have because a lot of people, and that's what she was saying, a lot of people are not afforded the opportunity to deal with the individual. So you would have to forgive the energy of the individual and the thought of the individual. And I think that's probably more so. There's some truth to that, I guess, where we'd have to look into that. But here you are, man. And I know you mentioned that your husband was somewhat similar,
my
like
ex.
your ex-husband was someone similar, like your dad, and that's what we do when we go into survival mode. We are familiar with certain energy, certain behavior, certain mindset, and we usually drift to that for comfort. We don't see it as that, but it turns out that we're used to that type of energy, and there's a degree of
Mm.
safeness there, but it's brutal to us. It's detrimental to our existence, but we find ourselves in it, and then eventually we always say, "Okay, this is not working. Enough is enough." So, and then we decide to move from that. Talk to us about that day when you severed from it, whether it was his decision or your decision, or how that came out. That day, how did you feel when that separation took place?
You mean of my
Yeah,
marriage?
your marriage.
So, first of all, let me, even in through my book, you will notice that I write between the line about my childhood and about my ex-husband, and the pain that was coming from both people. And the reason why I don't get too deep into the details, because I don't feel that I need to tell a story and shame someone else for
Mm-hmm.
it. So my ex created two, I actually married a wonderful guy. We were like, and then marriage and kids came very quickly. And then I got something I never signed for. I had little babies, and I had the responsibility to stay in a place in a marriage that not my vision at all, but I had responsibility to my
Yeah.
boys. But it's really, I really created a lot of I shut down myself.
Yeah.
I really shut down myself. And for me, it came unfortunately to a point when the more my kids got older, the more I felt struggle and more I felt like choked with my life, because I did not share with no
Yeah.
one, not my therapist, not my friend. I kept two of those secret inside of me, but it was eating me alive slowly, slowly. But I got really to a point that I commit suicide or I divorce. And I was so close to suicide. I actually pull my leg from the gas pedal in the last minute, the last second of almost smashing purposely into over. So that's, so the moment I let go of that gas pedal, I call my therapist because she pretty much saved my life, because she asked me. She knew that I was struggling with, with suicide thought through my marriage, and I always thought it was imbalance in my head.
Yeah.
I really thought it was chemicals that was going. And I went to talk to her, and she said, "Gila, you made a decision 17 years ago. Maybe it's time to make another decision." That's all she told me, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. And I got home and I asked for divorce. And Ken, wow, the
Yeah.
relief that my body went through was unbelievable. I was not aware that my marriage is what creating so much pain and struggle. The only thing that kept me alive
Yeah.
was the responsibility for
The
my boys.
boys. Yeah.
The pain,
Yeah.
knowing the pain of losing a parent at a young age kept me alive. And my dog was a lifesaver. Going hiking with her left and right just was a lifesaver. So I did not have a choice.
Yeah.
There was the two choice were like people tell me like, you're so courageous to ask for divorce. There was no other choice for
Yeah.
me, because the other choice was not be will be very, very selfish
Yeah.
toward my boys.
I was there too, Gila. I was there, and I realized that my act would be selfish. And my boys kept me alive, and they kept me alive to this day. So I know exactly what that is. And like you said, our decisions and will cause us pain in the body, dis-ease. This is how we get diseases in the body from some of these emotional things that we keep in. And because the emotion is such a powerful force, that it's being blocked in by our decision and our will to hold on to whatever it is. And then it has no outlet but to begin to, and it's an energetic force. And so it circulates within the body and begins to cause some damage. And we call that pain. The arthritis, unforgiveness was another thing on, all these different things that are stored within the body, because I told you that woman's body was crazy. And had she forgiven her husband, all of her limbs and her chemicals within her body would begin to become affected, and her freedom was within her forgiveness, and yet she refused to forgive. And so here you are, you came to the end and you said no, and you gave yourself another option. That option was to live and to seek the divorce. As you began to move through all of that, and you are free now, as you said, from it. And talk to us a little about beyond that, because I want to get to how did you get to 2 years ago? How did that come about? But I know the journey is you had some decisions to make after the divorce and all those different things, life changes as well, that will bring you to that place where you're going to be 2 years ago, where you say, you know what, I want to try this. What was it like for a single woman with children after the divorce and some of the things that you had to go through, and how did you make it through?
Well, first of all, in this point, my boys were a young adult in
Hmm.
college, um, and very independent. And even today, they're 25 and almost 27, and very independent. And I feel like that's the gift from their gift to me is standing on their own and let me live my life now,
Yeah,
be me.
yeah,
I'm there. I always will be the
yeah,
mother. And it's funny, they always will call you like, I don't feel good. Those little moments that are like, I love those. I cherish those moments. Like, I hurt my foot. Like, of course you can't. I love that. But the big decision they make, they will call to consult, but they take it on their
yeah.
own, and that give me the freedom to be me. But it took me like almost like over 6 months to put myself together, to buy my own apartment, to turn it around, and then put my. This is the first time ever. I'm 50, and this is the first time ever I have my own
Yeah,
place.
wow.
Before that, dad's home to live with my boyfriend and husband and friend and ex, but I never had me time, and I blossom. I absolutely blossom, and a lot of it was like educating myself.
Hmm.
I listened a lot to Brené
Yeah,
Brown, and her she pretty much educated me about myself. The more I can understand who I am and what my need and wants, what and why I behave in a certain way, the more I could make a healthier decision to myself. So what happened is like I did injure my back in one point, and that was the kind of the beginning of COVID. I just did so much hiking. Anyway, it took me a year to recover. And one September, late September, I woke up very, very stiff, and I had to crawl out of bed. Today I'm 56, but that was when I was 53. And I went and set up my yoga, and I'm like, wow, I always dream of traveling and living on the
yeah.
road. That was something that I always said it felt I born to live in the wild. I don't know how to explain that, but that is always what it felt. And I decided that what else can I lose? I mean, I cannot lose anymore. And the two of my biggest passion, I lost. I lost the ability to backpack, and I was a volunteer ambulance driver to my town in Mahwah, New Jersey. For the last 4 years, that it was so much. I got so much from it. Like giving. For me, be able to give is the best gift that I
Yeah.
can give myself. So I was very honored to do that, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I was, wow, I cannot wait any longer. And I just finished renovating my
Hmm.
apartment, and I thought, like, you know what? I can rent my apartment, and I can use that as to support me on
Yeah.
the road. And my big idea was getting an RV and and travel. And I every morning I will sit in front of YouTube with my coffee and learn and learn and learn. I even traveled to Florida to the biggest RV
Yeah.
show, because when I make a decision, I go full speed with all my heart and soul. But I'm very practical, so I will definitely make sure that I examine as much as I can. And then the price of gas went
Hmm.
up, and I'm like, okay, stop, stop, stop. Cannot do
Hmm.
that. Today, I am so grateful for the gas price went up, because it really had to stop me, because I think it would be a financial
Yeah.
suicide for me. So anyway, wow, this disappointment of that big dream. I was so
Yeah.
close. And I owned back then a Mazda CX-5, and usually my two-seat, the back seat was
Yeah.
folded down, because that's how I put my bike and go back riding. So I come back one day from a bike ride, and I take my bike out, and I'm looking at the space, and I'm like, wow, that's a very interesting space. Can I lay down in
Yeah.
there? And I go, and oh, just so you know, I'm 4'11". So there is first time in my life I'm taking fully advantage of my petite
Yeah.
size. And I said, yes, this is great. I just got my bike out of the car. I don't even walk yet to my
Hmm.
home. I pick up the phone and call my friend Mike. He's a very, very talented guy. And one of his hobby is
Yeah.
carpentry. And I said, Mike, any chance you can help me convert my car to a micro
Hmm.
camper? He's excited.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 months later, I'm on the road
Wow.
in my Mazda CX-5. My only position is sitting, driving, on laying down, sleeping. That's my only position. Don't ask me how I did it. That was the first year. Don't ask me how I did it, but that's how I did. I came back in September, last September, and I gave my car to my
Hmm.
son, and I bought a
Yeah.
minivan. And Mike helped me to micro camp that vehicle. So now it's like luxury. I cannot stand because I still have a very low
Yeah.
budget. But for me, I love this lifestyle. I will do whatever I can to accommodate
Yeah.
myself. I don't mind to adapt or whatever I need to do to be on the road. So today, I mean, it's amazing. If you go on YouTube and you just Google my name, Gila Melamed, I put video of the setup. So now my minivan, I have a little bit of kind of a living room
Yeah.
space, bedroom, closet. I have a kitchen. I mean, like it's all like very tiny, but I'm very organized, and I think that's the key. And
Yeah. My son and his wife
so that's
did that similar. My brother and his wife did that, but they bought themselves a big RV. And my son and
yes,
his wife, they did it in Japan. And they converted a van. They bought a van and they did the same thing, similar to you. And my story is very funny how we are similar in certain things. I got sick and I didn't know I died until the doctor came in and said, "Yeah, we lost you a couple of times." And so I looked at her, I said, "When you say loss, what
what do you mean?
exactly did you mean?" And she told me, and I was in ICU, and I remember sitting there, Gila, and I thought to myself, it's time to explore. And so I left America in 2021, somewhere around there, and I did the traveling as well. I always wanted to travel, and so I know exactly what that feels like, and to be able to experience it and have the. It's not what I had in plan in my mind. I was planning on traveling at some point, but how I did
Okay.
it and the circumstances that made it happen was not what I had planned. And I tell people sometimes your plan will change, but the responsibility of you within that is to flow with it, go with it. And what at least you're doing a part of what you wanted to do. It's not ideal as how you want it to be, but enjoy the journey. It's all about the journey and enjoy the learning aspect of it and take that leap of faith, if you will, and begin to experience because you get a chance. You find yourself there. So, talk to us a little, Gila, as far as some of your journey and your experience, because I remember some of mine when, especially when I'm by myself and I would meet certain people that come into my life. Like you talked about this lady that came into your life and exposed you to forgiveness and stuff like that. Talk about some of those stories because some of them are some of the most richest encounters you'll ever have in your life because it will
Yes.
change the trajectory of your mind, your belief, your whole entire being. Invite us to a couple of those encounters, if you will.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, I really would like to people to understand that because I think a lot of people hear my story like, I want to do it. First of all, there was a lot of fear
Yeah,
involved in it. There is, but I'm pushing through that fear quite often. And it's also it's not an easy life. It's not an easy life. There is, it's like I call it like coffee in the morning. It's a ceremonial
yeah,
process. The 2 minutes coffee take me now. It's a 15 minutes to bring in a good coffee to my to
yeah,
drink. But it is part of the journey. It's like, and I think if you hear a lot of stories of people that share that it is a hard life, but there is nothing like it for me
yeah,
anyway to be in nature. And from the beginning I thought like, well, and I still tell I can see how all the beautiful scenery that I see, all the amazing, breathtaking landscape. I mean, wow, that I saw and experienced are amazing. But the beautiful addition to the journey that I did not expect at all was the connection with the people on the
yeah,
road, with the beautiful soul that enter my life. And it just wow, there is so really. I mean, like if you read my book, you will see like the beautiful connection that was like from the beginning, just like and kept going. I mean, I'm still in touch with
hmm,
Ramona. Saw her a little bit through the year as I travel. My plan was to get to Vancouver Island in Canada and that's where she lives. I visit her, and we're still in touch. And it's a beautiful gift for me to stay in touch with some of the women. But here's a beautiful story. So I had a meetup with one of the Facebook group in Quartzsite, Arizona, and that's where I met Susan. We click very nicely, very quickly. She's also a full time nomadic, and I love her journey because she'll travel through her music festivals. And because you hear each woman, and a lot of women doing it, have their own kind of story, what put them on the road. So we realized that we're going to be in Joshua Tree National Park around the same time. And we decided we'll try to meet up. And while I'm traveling, I'm in Tucson and I meet another beautiful soul, Carrie. And I tell her she's also on full time. And I tell her my plan with Susan. And she's like, well, I might be around the area. I will probably will join you. I tell that to Susan and she's like, I'll tell Lori and Sandra, two friends that she know. And here we go. 5 of us, very much strangers to each other, meet up in Joshua Tree, creating a circle of women, each one in their own
Yeah.
vehicle, and for 10 days create a beautiful, beautiful community with respect and just with so much love. I mean, that week, that 10 days really will be one of the beautiful time that I have. I'm still in touch with, Susan. I'm still in touch with Lori. Carrie kind of lost the touch, but there was I think Carrie is 45 and Sandra was, in her early 70s. Even the age
Yeah.
difference did not make a difference. We just came from the love of nature and the love for the life on the road. It's just last week I spoke with Sandra. So it's nice, to have those kind of connection. And every person I meet, not everyone I write about, but they help me to understand about myself. They help me to just continue spreading love
Yeah.
in so many ways.
And everyone that's listening to us, we're going to provide all the links and to everything so you guys can get to her, especially her book. And you know how I feel about books. Books are amongst the walls that we call a cover, house wisdom, knowledge, insights, data that is sitting there that will ignite your imagination. And once your imagination comes into play, there's a lot of things happen. Once the imagination comes into play, you're able to ignite one's thoughts, your minds begin to change, thought patterns, everything begins to become ignited, and your world begins to expand a little. She has all these things within their wisdom, insights that will help you. And many of you don't look at your life as it is right now and say, oh, it's hopeless. I want you to look at your life and say, hey, I could create some possibilities. And Gila has some ideas and some anecdotes that will be within those books. She talked about those stories of those ladies that are out there. We will provide all that access so you guys can get to her and talk to her. If you're thinking about it, she'll be able to help you what you need, what are some of the expectations, what are some of the comforts that you're going to have to give up, because she said her coffee routine is a ritual. You're not going to have that 2-minute coffee as you're accustomed to. But the price of what she's talking about, a community of women for 10 days, those things, the value of that, you can never, ever put coins to that because of what it did to those individuals, created the friendships and all those different things. We're going to put all of her stuff together for you guys. So here you are, man. I love that. I love that you stepped out, because here's a single woman in her 50s, and you met older women there, younger women and stuff like that. But a single woman in a sense, stepping out on her own in an automobile, heading on the road, a degree of fearfulness. Talk to us, talk to those that are listening, especially those young women, old women, any kind of woman, even a young old man that is thinking about it, that has to deal with some of these fearfulness that they are going to encounter because of just being by self. How did you learn
Yes.
to overcome some of those? How did you learn, not even to overcome it, to push through? What was some of those tools that you brought in to push through, to go beyond the fearfulness?
Well, I will say, first of all, it will be like other stories that inspired me.
Yeah,
Other one of them was Wild by Cheryl Stray. Reading her book really like pushed me to empower myself and put myself, going backpacking, something that absolutely paralyzed me. I always loved it. I will see people backpacking and it will be like such a beautiful jealousy and so respect for
yeah,
them. And after reading her book and be able to connect with her on so many levels, I decided that I'm going to give that to myself. And wow, that day was really, in so many ways, was the beginning of understanding that I'm the only one that can empower
yeah,
myself to give my dreams to come true. And even though there is fear, and I can tell you, there were like panic attacks almost every night just before I
yeah,
left. And I knew that somehow inside me, I know that if I'm going to let the fear to hold me back, I am the only one that's going to lose
yeah,
from it. So it's just small step forward, just small step of like moving forward and knowing that it is up to me to break that wall. Now, today, the more I do, I know today that the more I face my fear, the more confidence I gain. I gain
yeah.
experience. By gaining experience, I gain the confidence of breaking those fears. I know that fears is a healthy
Hmm.
emotion that I need to listen, but I also need to know where I need to push further from that point. Now, I also very much learn to listen to my
Hmm.
intuition. There is a
Yes.
difference. There is intuition that when I feel that my gut is telling me something that I need to be aware, I learn not to,
Discount it.
what's the word?
Don't discount it.
Like really
Yeah.
listen right away, to
Hmm.
listen and
Follow.
follow. But when it's come to fear, to push. And I was, the first year I was in Canyonland National Park in the Needle District. And I was on a hike, and I don't know why. This is the first time ever that I am terrified. I am not sure even exactly what happened and why I was. I think I was more afraid of mountain lions. I'm not sure what was that brought me a lot of fear. And 95 of my body was telling me to get back and get away from there. Now, keep in mind, I am by
Yeah.
myself. This is March, and there is not even one soul around. Here and there, I saw a few people driving, but it's a very deserted national park. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. With every steps going forward, my fears start melting and melting. I am so grateful for that, not folding and giving up to that fear, because what it taught me that when I do push forward with all fear, I am building more resilience into
Yeah.
myself. I'm building more confidence with myself, and I'm able to let life be where I want to
Yeah.
be. So it's not easy, and I don't know what there is in me that push me to go. I think it's a lot of it is like the understanding that I have one chance to live,
Yeah.
one chance to make it right, and I want to give myself the best opportunity. And I know sitting at home will not get me
Yeah.
there.
I want you to talk to them about another fearful piece that you had to face in order to step out, and what the reward it brought you. And that was when one of your friends came and said to you, while you're out there, why don't you just blog about it? Talk about that, because again, that new piece in your life, someone comes and give you. And so first, how did that come about? You told me a friend of it, but how did that genesis, how did that conversation come about? And when your friend said that to you, what happened to you, and how long did it take you before you began to put those first sentences together in a blog?
Okay. So it was not just one friend, it was several friends. So I left on the road. The first time I left on the road was October 2nd, 2022.
Mm,
So I will say it started in July that few friends, asked me to start to blog. They want to follow my
hmm,
journey. And my first reaction was like, really, people, I mean, you're asking me the impossible. English is not my first language. I am a learning disability and I'm dyslexic. You asking me to do something that I never did before. But the more they ask, and I know only the second time on the road, I was willing to admit and say it loud, but there was a voice outside of me. The reason why I did not share it at the beginning, because I felt like I'm going crazy. But after I listened to the book Conversation with God with Neil Welsh, I knew that his experience was, I had believed so much of his experience because I experienced myself. And the more I ignore their request, the louder the voice became. And the interesting thing that is truly, it forced me to share my story on a three solo on Facebook. I belong to a Facebook group of solo women travel. And don't ask me why, because I'm such a private person to share that.
Yeah.
So writing for me, I call it a treasure box I found inside myself.
Yeah.
And what interesting and beautiful in the book that you can see that only the transition of my writing from like a young writer to to involve into where I am today, and I'm still learning and I'm still improving. It's also the journey of my own soul through all of the beauty of freedom and the friendship that I'm gaining. And so if you ever have that voices in you, please don't ignore them. I feel life, the last 2 years have happened to me. I did not ask to be where I am, but it's incredible and it's beautiful, and I'm honored to share my journey and help inspire other women to follow and to find their own truth and self way for healing. So I think my oldest son, when I announced my book, he wrote on his Facebook, how funny, because just a few years ago I used to reach out to him like, oh, I'm writing something, can you check my spelling? And he said, okay, and he said like, it's feel like my mom writing through, like nature right through her.
Wow.
And so it's very interesting. I am still stunned by my own writing. I read my own writing and it feel like someone else wrote it. So
I love it.
It's a gift. Yes.
Gila, you had started, I'm going to ask you, but you don't have to read it. You don't have to.
Okay.
But that poem that you had read a line to me, what a powerful, that line that you read to me was very powerful. I listened to it. I'm like, whoa, that is incredible. If you would like to, if you don't, it's okay. I understand, because again, can you grace us with that poem? Take the time and read it, because I think it is a powerful offering. But for those that are listening, I want you guys to really listen to this. And here is a woman that had went out and pushed beyond the comfort of her life. She had just renovated her place. And then she lay in the back of her car, called a friend, did some renovation, and hit the road. How crazy is that? How crazy is it that her friends are telling her about blogging, and she's like, "Are you crazy?" And then the voice comes to her and says to her, "I want you to write." And again, I said to you on the onset, God is interested in the relationship. He's not the one that created religion, men did. And so here is this voice saying, there's something in you that I want you to bring out. And she was obedient, and she began to listen to that voice and began to write those things. And the book came out. And I want you guys to listen. The stuff that is inside this individual, some of it may be residing within you, and you have not listened to that voice that have been trying to nudge you on into whatever that is that he's nudging you on to do. Don't be afraid. Step out, because there's some stuff inside of you that needs to come out. If you would, I would really love to hear that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read you the whole poem. It's called Blessing Woven in Resilient Grace. Dear God, Spirit of the universe, with all my heart, I know what my soul desire and where I belong. Thank you, God, for waking me to this understanding. Thank you for giving me the courage to pursue my soul pure desire for peace and belonging. Thank you, God, for all the love and blessing you have gifted me in this lifetime. Thank you for all the beautiful souls you bring into my life. They are a treasure I cherish deeply. Thank you, God, for the challenges that constructed my resilience while teaching me compassion and grace. Thank you for the gratitude in finding my wisdom and the beauty and appreciation it brings into my life. May I find the strength to remain on this path with all the challenges ahead.
I couldn't put it a better way. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming and listening to our conversation. We're going to provide everything for you to get access to her. There are things that are deposited in her that is going to be extracted even further because God is never finished with us. He's always stretching us more and more and more. And He will do the very same thing to you as well. You guys get her books. You know how I always feel about books. Offer them as presents to people. I'm sure you have some adventurous friends that are constantly thinking and talking about maybe taking that road trip and that different things. So buy it and offer it to them so that they can get some courage and get in touch with her so that she can help them to make those decisions. Gila, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you, Ken. And I have to say, like, I'm still keep writing, and if people want to follow me, they can do that on Substack, where I continue write and share my journey.
Excellent. And I'm going to give them all of that access. You guys get busy, sign up, subscribe, and follow her and learn, man. Gila, thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate your time.
That is beautiful. My God.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.